Hi, it's Jordan here. Before we jump into the episode, just a quick word about the upcoming narrative campaign, The Monday Signal, which will be running alongside the Operations Mazebreaker pre-order. We here at WIP12 have been working on the campaign alongside the hosts of Lost Lieutenant, Metachemistry, Rob Shepard, and Corpse Belly themselves, and we're all very excited to finally share it with you. The campaign will run for 4 weeks, with a new mission released each Monday on Infinity Geist, and there will be a link to Infinity Geist in the description below. It is a great app that has all the missions on it. We encourage you all to follow along with the evolving story, play the weekly missions, and submit your results to help shape the overall narrative. To encourage you to participate, CB will be raffling off one Operation Mazebreaker bundle per creator at the end of the campaign, so make sure to play and submit your games. You'll be hearing from us more about the campaign over the coming weeks, including an episode breaking down the mission that we contributed. But for now, enjoy your regularly scheduled episode.
Hello and welcome to the WIP12 podcast. I'm your host, Paddy Batman, and today I'm joined by the illustrious Raymon. Say hello, Raymon.
Yes, hello.
The topic for this podcast is what with Mazebreaker coming out. A little bit of background about me. I have a real passion for trying to get new players into the game, and I'm particularly focused on people who have already got a collection. Maybe a small collection, maybe you bought an action pack, maybe you went halfway on a starter pack with a mate, but you're worried that you're not sure how to continue. Now you're going to be bamboozled and blessed with so many different sources of information about how what's new in the box affects an existing collection, or what it means for the meta, or what the impacts for top level tournament play. And that's for people who are way cleverer and better at the game than I am. I'm here to try and talk to you about your humble 7 miniature collection that you got in Mazebreaker, and how once you've got through those intro missions, that'll be maybe 4 or 5 missions that should introduce you to the basics of the rules and the mechanics. Once you've got those under your belt, that's where this topic comes in, and this is targeted to those people who've got through those 5 and are ready to play a bit more games and explore the starter set a bit more, but maybe you're not sure what to buy next, or if you want to buy something next. So hopefully this will help you get more uptime with those models. But before we hit record, Ramon and I were talking briefly about how we both got started with our collections. So what was your intro? What was that experience like for you, Ramon?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, mine was that I started living in Leiden. Where I organized the tournaments, the Tafelritter. That's also where I started out playing. I know a friend of old who I started Warhammer with had this game. I saw on the Beasts of War how cool the miniatures are and how the game was played, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I want to play this. And this is at the start of the third edition. So mostly the starter sets were like six models from a faction. So I bought the Ariadne one, but I also wanted people to play with. So I started to buy Hakkeslam as well, and gathered a few models that I liked. Mainly the Catherine Sniper, because I found it really cool on this big block on a step where he sat, and the Moblots, who were laying in ditches with their machine gun, which I loved. Hakkeslam looked cool as well. So I started both those, and I know that my first 3 months were mostly I playing my brother or a friend, and just the models that I had. Up to 200 points. I printed out the rules that they had, so that I could find a parachutist and all the other stuff that was special, the camouflage rules, so that I knew that because back then the third edition rulebook, I thought I could start from there and just like I learned my Warhammer, like open the book,
Yeah.
read it, and then I probably know the game. Well, that's now not how the third edition book was realized. It was
No.
summaries of weapons and then summaries of the skills. So it was very mind-boggling
Yes.
to learn the game from the rule book. So I just experimented and like 200 points and the dudes that I have. And I know my earlier strategies were mostly like, this is my most expensive dude. Let's give him all the orders until he's dead.
Yes.
Then I go to the second most expensive dude until my army was dead.
The vertical line. I love it.
So, but yeah, that's like the first months were just experimenting and trying to find people who wanted to play with me. And I found people who wanted to play with me, and they started Hakkislam or Nomads or what have you. And from there, yeah, like the first time that I played a full 300 point game was way months ahead of when I started. Then buying more and the first things were experiment and actually realizing what the power levels are from which army or which units. That came in way later, like 2 years, 3 years later, before I have an inkling of I'm playing with the most OP or the most broken unit, or this is just a piece of crap.
Yeah, there's always going to be time in your hobby to try and chase the best, most competitive, most meta compliant list that there is. Whereas for the time being, I think this conversation is going to be very creative. And I'm glad you said that it took you a while to work out what the power levels of units were, because some of the things I'm going to be discussing here took me a long time, longer than I care to admit, to occur to me. So I'm hopeful that new players listening to this is that we'll be fast tracking them as best as we can.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so in terms of
what's your trajectory?
Oh no, I didn't want. I was trying to avoid that, but I'm such a basic player that I picked Morats, and I'm still with Morats until I get good with Morats and the game. So I picked up the Morat aggression force pack with the Kaiosat, Kaitok, and Zerat. And yes, I played one or two games, but I was so excited just to jump in that I then, started buying more and more models. So I quickly kind of had a collection that was wider than my experience with them, and that's left me with a lot of curiosity about the models that I would have maybe put on the bench, because they weren't strictly seen as competitive, or that it was hard to see exactly what their value is. So what's fun about this challenge is that it kind of you have to make do with what you've got in some respects, which is a lot of kind of what the game. You're going to find yourself in positions where you're going to have to make do with what you have, and this is kind of another expression of that. And what's nice about this is that there's actually so much fun to be had having looked at these profiles of what we're going to get into. So for the listeners' benefit, you and I haven't compared notes yet on these profiles. So I can't wait to hear what sensible, very competitive stuff you come up with. And I can't wait to hear you gasp at how stupid my ideas are. So this is going to be fun. But if I can maybe give us a quick overview of what the structure of what I'm aiming to do here. So is really kind of split into three sections. We're going to do gaming concepts and roles. So we're really just going to try and establish some language around what's important about an Infinity list, or what's important about the game. And then the next two sections will be one for each, the faction, Corregidor, and OSS. And hopefully you'll be able to see those terms of roles and things like that language get applied. So hopefully it'll make a bit more sense.
Yeah.
Does that seem rational to you, Raymon, or should we change things up a bit and just start dropping in random references?
It sounds very rational. What I want to start with is probably because we're going by the concept that we're now talking to people who played the first missions, have the box or have a starter box.
Yep.
Like I played last Friday, I played a few people who I demoed the game and are this demographic. And
Yes.
are the people I'm mostly, because I'm a warcore. My phone number is at the tafelridder, and people who come in and say, I want to learn the game. They call me up and say, hey, there's a new player, and I find them like, I played a few missions with my mate, and now I have to make a list, and then it's like dropping off a cliff. Because
Yes.
from this point on, yeah, you thought you had the swing of things. You were doing these missions. You go from 3 models to 4 models, 5, 6, 7. You find out what a camouflage unit is. You find out what a heavy infantry unit is, and so forth. Maybe some extra weapons, and then you go into the builder, and yeah, that's where people end up lost. And here
I
are
get you.
my few words of motivation, because don't aim for perfect, because you can probably listen to our episodes and we talk about the mostly the competitive side of the deep dives of the units and who are best and what have you. But you're not at that point, and that's not a failure on your part. Might feel that way because you think there are definitely more skirmish games that you learn faster than you learn Infinity. But the thing is, I would say stick with it, play with what you know, because once it starts to click, man, you get the most out of it. But you first have to go through the motion, because this is really a learning game. But I can say I'm now playing for 16, 17 years. I'm happy that I was like practicing and experimenting the first few months with lists that nowhere near 300 points. That I didn't know all ins and outs of every faction that there is, or any of the profiles that I know. I just by getting the games in, experimenting, then it starts to click, and it's worth the wait.
Absolutely. And following on from that, in combination, I'm going to say that some of the lists and some of the combinations that I'm going to be suggesting later, they're, on the one hand, they're not really designed to be the most competitive lists ever, and I'm not solving the starter set, but I am giving you bucket list goals. Every Infinity player should have at least experienced this or tried to do this at least once. And then you can forget about it because it's not competitive, but it is funny as hell. And the other thing as well, I guess, is because we're trying to keep the concepts and rules conversation maybe as light touch as we can. We're really just trying to establish the concepts, and there will be other assets and other material that you can go to do a deeper dive on any of these. But this is really just to try and establish the language and establish the ideas. Because I don't know about you, Ramon, but I've got the first thing to do would be to kind of categorize the things that profiles do and the things that turn up in your list. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories. Maybe you'll be able to point out one that I've missed that I no doubt have, and that wasn't an intentional mistake. But one thing to point out, so I'm gonna list the roles and then we'll go through them. But one thing to bear in mind is that when you're looking at a profile, you might see a profile that's really good at one role, but frequently you'll see that profiles can do more than one role. And part of the fun of the game and part of the skills that we're trying to develop is that being able to read the table and being able to read where, okay, if I had this profile doing this role, that would be a perfect knife through butter situation, but I don't have that. But that profile over there is maybe a good enough fit for me to do what I needed to do right now. So hopefully that's kind of what we're going to unlock. Okay, you ready for roll bingo? You're going to let me know what I've missed one?
Yeah, I will let you know if you missed one. Yeah.
Okay, so first and foremost, the simplest one that we're going to cover is cheerleaders.
Yes.
Okay. Next one that we're going to cover is active gunfighters.
Very handy, very well known. Yes.
Yep. Next one is ARO pieces.
You cannot go without.
You have to.
That's where the fun begins.
That is. That's a great point. I'll circle back to it in a moment. But the next one I have is specialists.
Yeah.
And then finally, you're going to have to tell me if this one is maybe too strongly worded. Corvus Belly likes to call them war bands, but I like to call them shit starters.
Yeah, that's Fafo for sure.
Did I miss any? Are there any more you can think of?
No. I was taught war bands, and then you said no, those are the shit starters, and I'm like, yep.
Yep. Okay, so I'll very briefly touch on what each of these roles are, and then we'll just try and I'm trying to keep it light as I can anyway. I'll go through the list, and then you tell me if I've missed anything. With your 16 years experience, you never told me about that before. Anyway, okay. So let's start off with cheerleaders. These are simple. In the box, you're likely to have 3 of them. For the Aguaseals, for the Corregidor, and I think it's the Dick Palas for the OSS. They're new, if I recall. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Yep. So they're basically.
Yeah.
Go on.
They're between 9 and 12 points. Light armored, mostly with a combi rifle or a rifle. Yeah, you think, well, this is not the star of the show, and they shouldn't, because they're cheap, and you have to fill your list, because if you want your star of the shows, which we can talk about later, to do any actions, they need orders, and these give them. So that's why they call them cheerleaders, because they cheer the rest on with their orders, they give them to them, but they can do stuff in the pinch.
They can do, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you name dropped the combi rifle there, because I think the cheerleaders do pretty much everything that you said. You're typically going to have them as an order bank in your deployment zone.
Yeah.
One important role that they do is that they establish a perimeter. So they're the things that are going to try and dissuade your opponent from sending their warband straight in, or they're going to give the warband something to chew on to buy time. So they establish a perimeter, but they also establish a baseline. So they establish a baseline of a shooter, and they can also establish the baseline of a specialist. So if you consider that of the other roles that we're going to talk about, what you're looking for is something that is better than a cheerleader, which leads us neatly on to active gunfighters. So basically, if you've got to the end of your intro missions, you'll have discovered that the combi rifle, the noble combi rifle, is kind of like your baseline shooter with your cheerleaders BS, so 3 dice.
Yeah.
You will also
they're the most effective up to 16 inches. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You will also probably have enjoyed playing with some of the other models in the starter games that have let you roll more than 3 dice for whatever reason. Because there's a couple of ways. For the pedants that are no doubt listening, when I'm talking about dice, I'm not talking about burst. I'm talking about throwing your 3 dice of burst and then your extra special die or whatever. But for these purposes, dice is what I'm aiming for. So if you're trying to read a profile and trying to spot what an active gunfighter might be, you're looking for someone who can throw above average dice. So Red Furies or Spitfires or things like that.
Heavy machine gun.
Yep. You're looking for somebody who's got good range bands, as Raymon said. Something greater than 16 inches is fairly practical for your active gunfighter, but it's not necessarily that. But you will be wanting typically to take shots from outside your DZ.
Yeah.
As low a PS as you can go, so that when you land those hits, they're taking models off the board, would be really good as well. And then if you're going to have a low PS with a weapon, you also want a really high BS, the ballistic skill that the profile has. That's another clue that this might be an active shooter or active gunfighter. And then finally, shooting skills. So in the starter box, you'll see there's one model that's got marksmanship. There's another profile that's got MSV3. Those are all things that strongly suggest that this model is an active gunfighter. What about you, Raymon? Or is there anything else that you're looking out for with respect to an active gunfighter?
Yeah, because once you are using your active gunfighter, you're trying to get the best chances against what you're shooting at. So these shooting skills, everything goes up by 3 or down by 3, depending on if you're shooting against something in cover or if you're shooting it against something with mimetism. But then the MSV can help to negate that mimetism. Marksmanship can help to negate the cover. So you're looking for the better results while getting your opponent on its lowest results.
Yeah. I know it might be very tempting if you're new to the game to think in terms of, well, I've got 7 models, each of them need to take a turn shooting, or that I need to move them all. That is not Infinity. That is not
Nope.
Infinity. The way Infinity goes is that if you're going to spend a skill on a short skill on shooting, you may as well try and make it the very best shooting skill that you can find in your list.
At that moment, at that corner. Like, yeah, you want to run around the corner, you don't want the sniper rifle, you want that shotgun. And once you're going to shoot long range, you want that heavy machine gun instead of the combi rifle.
Yep, absolutely. So that's active gunfighters covered for the time being. I'm going to skip ARO pieces because it's probably one of the larger concepts that we need to establish, but we'll come back to it at the end. The next one I have is specialists. So I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, Raymon. What do you look for when you're trying to identify if a profile is a specialist or not?
Yeah, there are some skills, and that's probably one of the hardest things to explain to a new player is like, where are my specialists? Well, they are spread out and they have different names, different skills, but they can, for mission purposes, these are the ones that can do your objectives, and those are your doctors and paramedics, your engineers, your forward observers, your chain of command, your specialist operative, your hackers.
Absolutely.
These are and you can find them, like a cheerleader can be a specialist because they're in the profiles. You can find their build-ups, so you can have the regular one with the combi rifle, but sometimes you find a paramedic or a forward observer or even a hacker. So, and then they turn into specialists, and those can go and, like when I say boop the button, they can go out and start going to the objectives and use their willpower to do objective skills and score you the points.
Absolutely, yeah. That's kind of what it comes down to, is that
Yeah.
as well as points means prizes, specialists means points.
Yes.
And as much as your active gunfighter might be the rock star of the show, it is the specialist that is going to win you the game. So you do need to think about spending your orders on your specialists.
Yeah, they come. They follow up from the active gunfighter to go once he cleared out the area, and you can safely push a button, hack a console, take away HVT, whatever you need to do in the comparative mission that you are playing.
Absolutely. And the flip side of that is that also means that they're valuable.
Yes.
So you don't want to leave them such that they can get taken off the board by your opponent, because denying your opponent ways of scoring is a reverse way of winning, which I'll take any way to win.
Yes. And you seek the kind of profiles that make it easier to be a specialist. Like I said, the cheerleader can be a specialist, but mostly the cheerleaders hang around in the back and take a lot of orders to get somewhere. So, but there are units that can infiltrate or are fast or are camouflaged, that are far better at this role. So you're not looking for the most heaviest dude, you're looking for the fastest dudes, or the dude that can come close by or sneak, or have some skills that makes them easy to sneak around, like camouflage.
Yep, absolutely. So if you're reading a profile and you see anything that puts a model further up the table than it would otherwise be, or allows it to move in a more safe manner, or if it's just simply fast, as you say, those are all clues when you're looking at a profile that this model could fulfill the specialist role.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, before we get on to the ARO pieces, let's talk about shit starters. So as I said, if you take a look at the troop type on the profiles, you'll see that this might be classed as a warband, but that's not necessarily the only type of shit starter that it is. But maybe let me tell you about the emotional journey that teaches you what a shit starter in your profile or in your army list is. If you're playing the game and you find yourself with a rather competent opponent, who has set up their models in such a way that you don't see an easy way to shoot a model or to get up close and do something. If you're in any doubt as to what to do, pick the shit starter and send them flying into the enemy lines and literally start some shit. The concept is borrowed heavily from rank and flank warfare, where you would have had skirmishers whose entire job was to go harass the enemy lines and try and get them to break formation or things like that. This is pretty much that same concept, but in cyberpunk form. So they are typically good at close combat. They're typically very fast. They're also forgivably cheap, so that you're not sending your most expensive models up there. But you can find, as you move beyond the starter set, some profiles that are shit starters but are actually quite expensive, and for that reason they get even scarier. But as a Morat player, the humble Datarazi is one of my shit starters, or even a 4-point Gaki would be a shit starter that I would go to. What about you, Ramon? What would be your favorite examples of someone that, when you're not sure what to do, you just throw them at the enemy lines?
Yeah, they mostly also carry weapons that don't need aiming. So the direct templates like the chain rifle or the flamethrower.
Yes.
So that you can get into a situation where they can do the most amount of damage, probably die in the process. But yeah, they are there to punch up. Like the Galwegian from the Caledonian, who is like 5 points, but has a chain rifle, is irregular and impetuous, which is also a reason to get a shit started. They got this extra order that they have to spend to just move forward, which is very handy because you want to move forward because he mostly has weapons that are very close range or need close combat, which you need to close the gap between you and the opponent. But yeah, they can be a hassle as an active, but also as an ARO, because once you end up somewhere with these close range weapons blasts, it's probably a toothache for your opponent to go and fight with them.
Yes, the your problem gambit.
Yeah, I've just run this. Dog Warriors is one also a good example of a big war band with more wounds, who can just go on a rampage if not checked by your opponent.
Perfect.
As an extra bonus, if they bring smoke grenades, they can make the traversal even more of a more easier, because they can just throw smoke and blank off their approach. There are some that are not cheap, not because mostly you look for cheap you're looking for cheap warbands, but some are not that cheap, but they mostly bring like Eclipse grenades who are even better smoke, but they can start shit all the same.
Yes, absolutely. And I definitely think that we're going to see examples of that in the Mazebreaker box. But before we get into that, we need to touch on our final row, which is ARO pieces, which I've saved to last because it runs the risk of being probably the concept that has maybe the hardest one to grasp, but also it's kind of the most important one for newer players, I think, to think about. Go on.
Yeah, because this is what makes Infinity special. Any other war game that you play, the results are mostly either you hit or you miss. But the arrows make it so that you either hit, miss, or be shot to death by your opponent.
That's the one.
I find this an art form. I love to kill my opponent in arrow and do the objectives in my active turn. Leave the killing to as a reactive thing.
One of the things I observe from newer players is that they will approach their deployment, as an example, as if they've got all of these guys with futuristic outfits and futuristic guns that you probably couldn't pronounce the name of, and if they stand them up so that they're looking down range, that they're going to, present a firing line, and that's going to be very difficult for their opponent to work their way through.
We're a space bunch together.
That too. But when I see players present that to a player who knows how to use an active gunfighter, that firing line that they set up really just kind of collapses into a shooting gallery. Because if you've got this far and you played through your first 5 missions, you hopefully have noticed that active turn shooting is way more effective than reactive turn shooting because of the difference in dice that you get to throw. And some players can get very dispirited or demoralized whenever. But my beautiful firing line with the futuristic guns, whose name I can't pronounce. Why did that not work?
It's very tricky. Yeah,
it is. So that's why it's worthwhile taking just a little bit more time to discuss what are ARO pieces and how to spot them. Now, before we go on, Blessed Be, who's done a great amount of beginner content. He's done a really good YouTube video that goes into more detail on what ARO pieces are. I'm going to borrow heavily from that, but also kind of keep it a bit light as best I can. But if we start off again, as we are categorizing stuff, let's split ARO pieces into hard ARO pieces, medium ARO pieces, and soft ARO pieces. Now that sounds like I'm describing a boiled egg. I'm always going to advocate for Predator references whenever I can. So I'm going to say that a soft ARO is a tick, a medium ARO is an Alabama tick, and a hard ARO is Blaine's Bane from the scene in Predator when he needs someone else with a grenade to dig out somebody who's in a bunker above him. It's a perfect example because Blaine's Bane, Blaine, of course, is carrying a minigun. That is definitely an active gunfighter if ever I saw one. No one's going to use the Predator skill, but I'm going to advocate it nonetheless. Anyway, so let's start off with the easy ones. What's a hard ARO piece? So I'm going to say if you're looking at a profile and you see that there are skills like total reaction or neurocynetics, those strongly suggest that that model is an ARO model. I don't think there's any total reactions or neurocynetic models in the box. So that's why I actually don't think, maybe you'll correct me, I actually don't think there are any hard ARO models in the starter set. What do you think?
No, but with the caveat, if you go into link teams, it's far easier to set up one.
So that's a great segue into eventually getting us to discussion of medium ARO teams or medium ARO pieces, because I think there's a lot of medium ARO pieces. But first, let's touch upon what's a soft ARO piece. Basically, this scale works on risk. So a hard ARO piece there's a lot of risk for an active gunfighter to take them on, and it's built for it. A soft ARO piece, really, there's little risk to you, because a soft ARO piece might be something like a mine, or it might be a repeater, something that is in the way of the opponent. But if they take it out, it doesn't cost you much because it's just a mine or it's just a repeater. And if they take it out, it's just really had to cost them skills or risking going into a hack. It's when you get into, one other example of a low risk ARO, and I don't think this is in the starter set, but peripherals. So if you get models that have like little bots or little creatures with them, if you lose the creature, it's not so much a big deal. But I think we're going to be discussing medium AROs a lot. So medium AROs is where the risk to your model of putting it into ARO mode increases slightly. Is that, yes, they could perform ARO duties, but you might lose that model in the process just because of the bias in active gunfighting. If I were to ask you for examples of medium AROs, Raymon, what would you look for in a profile?
Medium AROs. Well, if they could form a link team, because then you can up a dice. Like you have some Dakinis who are actually once you get one with a sniper rifle, who is in burst one shot over a long distance, but once you put them into a link team, you get an extra dice. So that's at least 2 dice on a sniper rifle. So once you confront something like a heavy machine gun, but your range is longer, so you could maybe fight that active gunfighter from a longer distance where you still have the upper hand in numbers. Like you got the better number because they are either shooting at a -3, you're shooting at a +3, and you're at least throwing 2 dice against 4 dice.
Yes.
So your chances are bigger. They're slimmer. You probably die, but it might take them some orders, or they take a hit in the process.
And this is the joy of the game, is that if you start delving into the maths of the difference that 2 dice makes to 1 dice, it's significant, but the advantage is still in the active turn players' shots. However, it could be enough to get inside your player's head, and they might just not decide to chance taking a 2 dice arrow and might simply decide to go a different route. And part of the art form that I think you referenced earlier, Raymon, is your arrow strategy, your arrow choices, is really you putting together the argument to dissuade your opponent, as opposed to just killing their models. You're putting together the argument to dissuade your opponent from making an advance or taking a particular avenue against your forces. So I would agree with what you've picked out. Other things that I look for with respect to medium arrow pieces, I look for low burst weapons. So if I see a profile has a weapon with a burst of 1, I think to myself, that's an arrow weapon, because there's no point in firing that in the active turn. And there's no downside. We'll see. The Panzerfaust is a particular one. I also liked your one about range. I generally think that when it comes to weapons that chuck dice, if it's a longer range weapon and it's low burst, either 2 or 1, that to me suggests that it's an arrow weapon. If they have access to direct templates, that's your short range shot, because whenever your active gunfighter or their active gunfighter pops his head round the corner and you have a chain rifle or a flamer, you can just decide, well, I'm going to put a template down. If you want to kill me, that's okay, but you're going to risk taking the wound. Which brings me on to the other thing I look for that makes me think it might be an ARO model, is low cost to a model. If a model doesn't cost much, then it gives me the feeling that I might trade up, as in it might take out a more expensive model of yours. And as I said, could you imagine you going up against a Preda that you know is 7 points and it has a chain rifle, and you lose your 1 wound specialist to a Preda?
I don't like going around the corner. No.
Yeah, exactly. Other things I look for in terms of could this be an ARO model is that, do they have good armor? Could they stand up and take a shot or 2? Are they worth the risk? Do they have multiple wounds? If a model is standing up and it takes a wound, then it's burned an order of yours, and I haven't lost a model. I've just lost a wound. And then I can use guts to get out of the way. And then I think finally, does it have MSV1? If it has MSV1, then that to me suggests that that's just enough MSV to be an ARO model, or to be a bit more reactive in case someone's trying to use smoke to get sneaky on me or something like that. A couple other things. If it has a weapon with suppressive fire, we're going to see that, because that allows you to shift gears and throw 3 dice in your reactive turn instead of active turn. But it's something that you can get round. And then finally, the other thing that we're going to see is that if it's a BS attack, and if the skill BS attack +1 special die, that's a great indicator that this is a model that can do both active gunfighting and reactive gunfighting, because that's either a one-man fire team, because he has a special die built in, or that's a disgusting free suppressive fire model if he's in a fire team as well, because then he gets 2 special die and he's throwing 3 dice in reactive.
An extra one that I want to throw in as an Ariana player is the one that's obscured. Either it's a camo marker, or it's even got a way to go hidden and not be on the board unless you reveal it.
Yes.
Which can also be very nice ARO pieces, because your opponent first needs to discover them or be aware of them to be able to attack them. So it's mostly your decision to reveal yourself and open fire.
Absolutely.
So one that's very expensive, but has very high armor, extra wounds, and is very obscured is the Swiss guard from Leno with a missile launcher, who is hidden. The Swiss missile, because it's hidden from the start. It has ballistic skill 15, so once it reveals with the missile launcher on a moment where your opponent is maybe out of cover, and then fires while itself being -6 to hit because of the mimetism.
Yep.
Very strong ARO.
But as you say, and if we give maybe that as an example so if you've just bought your starter set and Ramon is talking to you about the nightmare profiles that you have waiting for you when you go to your local club and you manage to convince somebody to give you a 150-point game, which all clubs should do.
He's probably not there.
Hopefully he's not there, but the answer to him, and hopefully we'll have established that, is that if you have a shit starter in your list, then you send them up in the field to try and bait out the traps.
Yeah.
Because I guess one of the general concepts that we should be touching on is that Infinity is a game of forks.
Yeah.
I.e., where you present choices towards your opponent, and hopefully both of those choices are bad for your opponent. And in that case, if you've got your lovely expensive swizzle waiting for me, but I don't know it, but if I send a shit starter up, then the fork for you is that do you reveal to take out the cheap unit and lose your advantage, or do you let my cheap unit get closer and closer and become more of a threat? So that would be an example of the forks. And
there's a reveal for a 5-point Galwegian.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
He's said bad things in incomprehensibly thick Scottish accents about the things that you like that deserve an answer. So I think we covered the main concepts and roles that I had a list of. Is there anything you think we should touch on, Ramon, before we start delving into the factions and the profile?
Oh, this is where you make the makeup of your army. You want enough orders, and you're forced to do stuff with your active gunfighters. So you're looking for an active gunfighter that gives you the best odds. Put some cheerleaders in to help, but you also need some specialists in your list to go and do those objectives. Some shit starters to at least suss out those mines that you can find, or start hitting things that are up close, and especially the ARO pieces, because you have to you got your active round, but you also get your reactive round, and that's where you have to stop your opponent from doing their objectives and doing the stuff that they need to do to win the game. So
absolutely,
it comprises.
I'm hopeful that by the end of this we'll be able to have discussed the concepts and the profiles more. I'll pitch a couple of lists that are designed to maybe help you play your first mission of maybe something like supplies, or some of the domination missions, so that we're graduating from the missions in the starter to something that looks close to an ITS mission, because that's hopefully where people are in their journey.
Yeah.
So if you're
Which
ready,
I want to say is also start off light when doing your games.
Yeah, there are some simpler missions to play. I think
Yeah,
supplies is still either in the rulebook or it's in the ITS pack under direct action, but I think that's always a good one
yeah.
to start off with.
Looking for the direct action ones. Also, maybe when you start with your army and don't know how to comprise it, or you just want to make 150 points. Like
Yeah,
I start mostly with with games that I say, all right, we ditch the link teams because those are probably too tricky to do so, and maybe allow that the lieutenant is known, but you don't go into loss of lieutenant when he's killed because you're
yeah,
both learning your lists. So it's probably better to just play with open lists, so that you can at least get a bit of the hang of things.
yeah,
Not tell what's under the camouflage, but at least know that what you're rolling for.
yeah.
And maybe that even the objectives can be done by all your unit instead of just your specialist, because you're probably doing a move with a specialist that throws him away or gets killed, and at least you have a game if you know that you can that other guys can also do the mission, so you can at least get the hang of things and make a few bumps and faults along the way.
There was definitely going to be bumps and falls. Just try and make sure that they're fun and that they're fast and
Yeah.
that you get pictures and you get credit for them. Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're ready, I'm ready to jump into OSS. I think that's the one
Yeah.
to kind of go into first. So I suggest that we start with the attack parts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, sorry. One thing I wanted to touch on within each faction is that rules that you as the player are probably going to want to read up on in advance. So I looked through the profiles for OSS, and the ones that jumped out to me, generally speaking, is I think you're going to want to have read up on camouflage, mimetism, multispectral visor 3, and hacking.
Yes.
Anything I might have missed there, do you think?
No, especially because these armies represent that the most. Like
Yeah,
I have discussions with some fellow long veterans, and they said, well, keep away from hacking because it's difficult. But yeah, if you play an army that's a lot about hacking, then you should know about hacking.
yeah. And in fact, of one of the lists I'm going to talk about at the end here basically says that the hacking in OSS, the eating here is too good for you to pass it up. You kind of
Yeah,
need to jump into this.
I get a
Um,
lot of questions like, what's the best army to start with? What's the easiest to get in? And I mostly go, well, just go with the ones that you like. Go with the start that you like, because the hobby is more than playing with the right profiles that you want. It's also about the models, the painting, and the building of it. So you want to play with the army that looks the coolest to you, that makes you happy. Plus, every army has its upsides and downsides, things you need to know, things that they lack, things they're good at. So yeah, if you go with Ariana, you probably need to know about camouflage. If you go with ALF or with Nomads, you're probably going to learn a lot about hacking. But even so, if I would say go with a simpler army like Pan Oceania, because they have these big gunfighters, then you also have the trouble of fighting against armies that are not Pan Oceania, or yeah, you need to learn about not overextending yourself, or so every army has its difficulties, its strengths and its weaknesses. So by the end of it, the sum for me is go with the army that you like the most. And yeah, some skills might be hard, but they're worth it because they're probably the ones that you use the most with your army anyway. So you get the feeling with them anywho if you keep playing with that army.
Absolutely. I think the only thing that might add to that is so you're saying that there's the only wrong choice is the one that is less fun for you.
Yeah.
So the only thing I might add to that is in your community, local or otherwise, find the people like me or Ramon who are just going to love to talk to you about whatever profile you actually have, as opposed to chasing meta or trying to build the
Mhm.
what might be the most competitive list that you can. This is our hobby time. There are few wrong choices, and picking the ones that you think look cool is not a wrong choice.
I'm very much an underdog guy, so I like I like the broken toys and trying to make them work.
Same
So
here. Same here. Is why I love the idea about people taking the time to enjoy just the contents of the starter set, because you may find, depending on how the meta shifts and things like that, that there's profiles that just won't get the airtime anymore as soon as you start adding to your collection. So get some dice time with them on the table while you can.
yeah.
So the TACBots that I'm gonna have real difficulty saying the name. I'm sure it means something Greek and is probably very thematic. But the inner 12-year-old is just going to struggle saying Dikpala all the time. Anywho, what did you make of the profiles? What roles do you think they could do?
I have to open it up first. Which one is it? Right. I'll edit this. The TACBots, yeah, the Dikpala. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Corvus Belly.
Well, yeah, this is. Well, sometimes they're just dirty Spaniards. They like to make asses on their model. They go for dirty.
I mean, now you
names.
say that is a rather, nice.
We got our sex toy maker.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to be a very grown-ups. Yeah. What
That's
I like
fine.
about this profile, for one, it's a line troop, but it's a structured troop. So
Yes.
it's not. So that means you probably want to bring some engineers to keep them alive. They're also very fast. They're 6'4", which is
6'4" standard is impressive, I think. Yeah.
pretty unheard of for a line troop. It was on the especially if you start moving them up, it's nice to go like 6 inches and then round a corner and still be able to shoot.
Yep.
So that can come in handy dandy. And their mimetism makes them tough. Yes, they are ballistic skill 11, but mimetism counts for something. If you go against something that's even a higher ballistic skill but doesn't have the MSV, they go down, and you can bring them more on an even level. For that and many points, like the lowest that you can go is like coming around for 13 points, which is on the expensive side for a line trooper, for a cheerleader.
True.
But
that's a mimetism -3 line trooper. It's a remote, and so that does make it more vulnerable to hacking. But they've thrown in some ECM hacking there to kind of balance that off. And they're super fast, and so I'm drawn towards the last two profiles there, the paramedic and the repeater. I'm drawn to the paramedic because, yes, he's fast, but you also have the complement of, there's a couple of important models in this collection with a high fizz. And the last, it can be hard enough if you're going to use the medikit in ranged mode just to land a hit. But ultimately, whichever way you look at it, if you're trying to use a medikit on a model who's got low pH, you're kind of starting off the back foot, whereas later on we're going to see there's at least one, if not more, models that have high pH, so they would benefit from being able to be rezzed if you could.
Like sometimes, the paramedic has the better odds because of the fizz, because mostly doctors work on willpower, on whip.
Yes.
But sometimes you have like these high physic units that can be easier brought up by a paramedic from afar.
Yep. And the other one that I'm a big fan of actually is the repeater and the Panzerfaust and the submachine gun. This to me says cheerleader who could go to ARO duty if I needed it to.
Yes.
And as we'll see later, that repeater means that they're automatically kind of an ARO unit because they're going to dissuade people from wandering into your hacking area.
Yeah, anyone who walks into its zone of control can be hacked by a hacker.
Yeah. So of the line troopers in the box, that repeater profile to me is among the best establishes a perimeter cheerleader that I can see.
Which is very handy because this is a troop that can be easily hacked because it is a RAM, which are in the game. Can be isolated, so will be will be their own order, their own group, and cannot be used the orders from the rest of the group, or give their own order to the group, or even be immobilized and not be used unless you reset from it. So they are a target for hackers. So best that hackers help them stay alive.
Yes. Yep. That's fair. Working. I mean, yeah, it gets back to that point I was saying about how good ARO game is about making an argument for your opponent not to do something. So if your opponent was thinking, I might hack that TAC bot, well, if you move into its hacking area, then you're automatically within the hacking area of every other hacker that your opponent has. And it's got hacker -3, so it's more difficult than it needs to be to try and land whatever you're going to land.
Yes.
But so they are your line troop. I am hopeful that the 5 missions in the starter set will have given you some exposure to fire teams, and these guys will form the core ingredients of your fire teams.
Yeah, so get yourself a couple of dicks.
Get 3, why not?
Yes.
And then, so that kind of makes me want to move on to the only model that I can spot that you can actually also put into that fire team to give it a fire team bonus. So with 3 of them, that would be a purity 3 fire team. That means that they all gain a special die if they decide to shoot in reaction, which for my favorite repeater profile means that Panzerfaust gains an extra die.
Yes.
And they get +1 dodge at level 3, which is what they're going to need with Fizz as low as 11 or 10. Sorry. And they also get +3 to discover with a respectable whip 13, which could be useful given who you're likely going to be playing against if you've split this pack with a mate. But yes, moving on to the next troop, the only other troop that I can see that actually could fire team with them is the Sharvara, the Hound bot.
This little K9, yes.
Yeah, so what do you make of this guy? What are your thoughts? How would you categorize him?
Bloody fast.
Yeah.
6'6".
Yep.
This has range.
Super jump.
So super jump, yeah. It comes with heavy riot stopper, Imarot, so it has those indirect templates.
Yep.
Which can either kill or immobilize large groups. So this is your shit starter.
Absolutely, that's where I was going with it. Yeah.
It moves up the board a bit with the forward deployment, so it has that extra 4 inches.
Yep.
Which with 6'6" means they in just a few orders they can already reach your opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah, and so as I said, he's an excellent shit starter. He is less than 20 points, so I tend to think of 20 points as the midpoint as to whether or not a unit in the list is a giver or a taker, just because 15 or 300 divided by 15 troops is 20 points each. So him being just below makes him a bit of a giver in the list. I think he is pretty much, he can do AROs for perimeter. So if you wanted to fire team him up with the Dick Palace from earlier, then that would be level 4 fire team, which would mean that your Dick Palace would shoot a little bit better. His dodge would become insane because he would have +3 dodge because he has that on the profile, means that he's dodging on 15s, plus another 1 would put him on dodging on 16s, which means if someone pops around the corner and decides to template that group, they know that it's just unlikely to do anything to the Hound bot. And they would also know that pretty much whichever profile you pick, you got access to some gigantic template to use. I think this guy is also the best close combat guy in the collection because he's got CC22. Natural Born Warrior means no negative mods from me. Thank you very much. He puts a -6 back.
Yeah.
Which can, one of the big things about CC is the accessibility that martial artists and things like that get to crits. CC -6 is enough to really stamp down the crit game, which sometimes I find people underestimate, but that's really useful. But with the forward deployment
Although
plus
it's mostly
4,
advisable to fight things that are not that good in CC with units that are great in CC. Once you go against someone that also has good CC, you're not rolling with those many dice. Mostly 1 or 2, if you're lucky, because of the martial arts.
Yeah.
So
Well, that would be the would be kind of the ARO game that you present to your opponent, because let's say that you have fire teamed him up, and you've kept him behind your Dictalas, and so I suppose one of the things to say is that for beginners, to get away from that shooting gallery problem, it's perfectly permissible to deploy your guys so that they're hidden from the enemy deployment to begin with. But one step beyond just putting everybody prone and hiding behind a wall is making it so that yes, you can get shots against these guys, but you have to come forward to do it. So kind of have your guys angled out to the sides as opposed to looking directly downrange. If you have a Sharvara in and amongst that group, it means that if someone does pop round trying to get a shot or some CC, Sharvara's dodge is so good, and it can dodge 4 inches thanks to that +2. You might find yourself locked down in CC and unable to keep your kill streak going.
you can use it as a guard dog.
Absolutely, yeah. So yes, I'm going to say with the forward deployment and the CC and the templates, I think this collection's only alpha striker, i.e. a unit that would show up in their opponent's DZ first turn and start isolating or gluing fools to the floor. But overall, I can't wait to see what people do with this model.
For sure. Going super jump 8-6. My word.
Yeah, that is fast. Okay, so if you're happy to move on, the next one I have on my list is the Shukra Consultant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is your either your lieutenant or your chain of command. So once lieutenant goes down, it will take over. It's a text piece, a specialist piece. And it brings some extra tricks like the counterintelligence, which is very handy if you decide to play with command tokens. Some will use especially command tokens to when someone goes first, that they spend one to take away 2 orders. The counterintelligence make that only 1, which is very nice.
Yep.
It's not the heaviest trooper on the list.
No, I'm going to say that I think this model is a cheerleader with notions of grandeur. Because I can't see you wanting to use this trooper either on a medium ARO duty or active gunfighting or anything to do with CC. I think the chain of command gives you that ability to play with an obvious LT and know that if your opponent was thinking, this is about getting into the head of your opponent. If your opponent wanted to put you into loss of lieutenant and they see that you've got a Shukra on the board, they know they have to kill 2 models in order to make that happen. So it could make your opponent just completely abandon the plan, trying to put you in loss. And the other thing I might add is that between the biometric visor that she has, the Discover +3, and a very respectable Whip 14, I think she's the rarest of the rarest guard in the cheerleader, and she's there to try and catch camo markers camo markers or the biometric visor to try and catch anybody who's impersonating. So that would be Fides, I forget what the combined army one is. What's that one?
Speculo.
Speculo, thank you. Or more practically, people who have cybermasked and are using their killer hacking device to
Yeah.
enter an impersonation state.
Yeah, this one is just hiding out for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so maybe moving on to someone who's a bit more interesting. The next one on my list is the Nagas.
Nagas.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a profile that I like because I see some camouflage, I see some infiltration.
I mean, there's a lot of options here. There's 6 different
Yeah,
profiles.
hiding out. So yeah, it can be. If you go for the specialist, then you have a good specialist on your hand.
With 14, that's
Yeah,
respectable.
this can boot buttons like no one's listening.
Yeah.
And be there pretty quick because of infiltration and camouflage to close the distance.
Yep.
But also can be an ARO piece if you go for, say, the mine layers who can
Yeah.
lay these soft AROs, these round, already on a corner, maybe in the vicinity of an objective, so your opponent needs to think twice before they send in their specialist to start pooping the button and not getting blasted by a mine.
Yep.
Some even more nastier mines than the monofilament mine, which is the nastiest mine you can find, because if you fail an armor check with a monofilament mine, your unit just goes straight to dead.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you are a big bumpy tag with 3 wounds and a lot of armor, well, if you fail that roll, it's gone. I've seen it happen.
So I would agree with you. I think that this is a multi-role model. I think it can do
Yeah.
multiple things, but I would agree with you. I think it leans heavily towards specialist with the forward observer and the hacker profiles.
Yeah.
So when I say it's multi-role, I think it could do active gunfighting because the multi-rifle BS attack +1 special die. In total, that's only 3 dice. But as a Morat player with the Yaugat sniper, I wouldn't underestimate how far average numbers of dice, but access to double action ammo.
If you
And
start
a
attacking,
low
yeah.
PS, how effective that can be, because you start getting into the point of, yes, my odds of winning the face-to-face might be less, but if I win the face-to-face, the outcome for you is sadly a lot worse. And also the way that she stacks negative mods on
Yeah.
her. And so if she starts off in camouflage and she takes a shot with the sniper rifle, then you've got your surprise attack given a -3. You've got another -3 coming from the mimetism. There's another possibility as well that shot could be coming through something like a white noise zone or something like that, which would put another -6 on an opponent. So there's a way that you can strongly dissuade your opponent from shooting her back.
Or from longer range, the gun that's AROing you back.
And yeah, I think this is one of these profiles that I can see it's really worthwhile getting comfortable with how to use this model, because if you find yourself playing ITS missions with things like radial deployment, where because she's got infiltration, you could deploy her right at the corner where not many people, only other infiltrators can deploy, or parachutists or something like that. Then she's got really long ranges that she can enjoy with that sniper rifle. And then if you also throw into the mix, she has got dogged. So if you take that shot, but you end up losing, yes, she could be gone by the end of the round, but you could keep spending orders on her and get a bit more mileage out. And similarly, as an ARO piece, it means that she could work that way as well. It's going to take more than one short skill in order to get rid of her. So I was quite impressed with the multi-sniper profile, but I agree with what you're saying exactly as well. I think mine layer profile as well is going to work really well. The ability to put down some soft AROs in the form of mines at the beginning of a game. I wouldn't underestimate just how powerful that can be, especially when you think of missions that have objectives in the center of the board, and giving, because of the way N5 is with visibility zones and things like that, if there's one thing that just doesn't give a shit about visibility zones, it's mines. So the way to shut down, first turn snatches and things like corporate appropriations or things like that, it's well worth getting comfortable with the mine layer. And then, as you say, the monofilament mine, that's probably, that's just 1 point extra, no more extra WC. That's almost an automatic take if you can.
Bloody scary mine.
And then getting into her hacker profiles. So a little bit about forks and hackers. Again, blessed be Ollie has done some great write-ups about how camouflage works and how you create really unpleasant forks. To touch on it lightly, the hacking device, not the killer hacking device, but the hacking device, with the upgrade of carbonite of an extra special die. You'll note what comes with the hacking device is an AP submachine gun. That sets the Naga up in really well to wander up behind heavy infantry, and it has to be behind the heavy infantry. It can't be inside the line of fire. She does have stealth, so she could wander up behind them and not trigger an arrow, but do not do that. Wander up behind a heavy infantry model or a tag or a remote. Say that you are not using stealth and that triggers an arrow that they have to respond to immediately. And then they're faced with, is this next short skill going to be a hack or is it going to be a shot? Because of that AP submachine gun. If they choose to dodge, you hack them. If they choose to reset, you shoot them. And then that way, none of your second short skills result in a face-to-face.
Lovely.
Similarly, the killer hacker sets her up to go after enemy hackers, but you can't get the fork the same way, because if you wander up behind a hacker has 360 degrees worth of hacking area. So whatever you choose to do, they can just face to face that with a hack of some description. However, you could use the killer hacking device to put her into a different marker state instead of camouflage. You could put her into impersonation, and you can wander happily through your opponent's mine network. Because it's a friendly model, it won't set off mines.
Yeah, that's their trick.
Which, given that she is an infiltrator, that could be the counterplay to an opponent who thought that they were being smart and brought mine layers to try and mine the center of the battlefield to make sure the objectives weren't easy to get to.
I love it. That's where the love of the game comes in. That's why you need to go and keep playing, people, because you can do those kind of tricks.
The other thing to note about the hacker with the hacking device and the upgrade of the Carbonite +1 special die, as a Morat player, I'm going to hate that because Carbonite is effectively the only hacking program apart from Spotlight that I actually have to worry about. So that could have me concerned as a Morat player. And then finally, the Forward Observer, that's the cheapest profile that there is. Doesn't cost you any SWIC in order to get that. I wouldn't be surprised if you stick with the game that you find yourself thinking, oh, well, she needs to be a specialist. I need her to press buttons. The cheapest one is the Forward Observer. I could make that work, particularly if you were to combine it with other things. She has a deployable repeater as well. So all in all, I could see.
Plus, you bring some long range kit, because the forward observing and the flash pulse you can use on the longer range in the
yes,
gun.
Yeah.
So you can just and with whip 14.
Yeah,
whip
14 flash pulse.
You have a high chance of blinding your opponent who tries to shoot your Naga.
Yeah. Although, are you now ready to take on the big FU piece that I can't believe that they've put in the starter set?
Let's go for it.
Let's talk about Azuras, shall we?
Man, this is.
Yeah, this is a bit gross.
Pay a lot, which already starts you at. This is something I have to use actively. This is not hiding into a corner.
No.
2 wounds. and no wound decapitation. So that means it is at least 3 wounds. So it can sustain.
Yep.
Armor 5. That's a high armor for a walking about unit.
Yeah. I think
There's
that's
some.
the only higher armor you could get would be 6 and still be heavy infantry, I think.
Ballistic skill 14. That's the high range.
Yep.
For shooting, and then the multispectral visor level 3.
Yeah, so that's the argument.
Nothing will hide from you.
5,000. So that one is.
Yeah.
That was one of the rules that I mentioned earlier that you should get comfortable with. I see this profile as kind of like the workhorse of your list. That is clearly what we said earlier. To take a look at her profiles, that AP Spitfire, that's Burst 4, that BS 14, and the multispectral visor, all of those things scream to me this is an active gunfighting piece.
Yeah, and this is where the Shukra comes in handy, because you can go for the one that is the lieutenant plus 1 order, and lieutenant orders can only be spent on the lieutenant.
Yep.
So if you want to run around with Asura, you just make it known she's the lieutenant and spend those 2 orders to go and attack and do all your gunfighting. While in the meanwhile, if she would go down, the chain of command can take over, and you will not be in loss of lieutenant.
Yeah, I mean, so there's usually this point when your opponent plays their LT order and it reveals who their lieutenant is, and you think to yourself, oh, well, at least I know who the lieutenant is. As soon as your opponent puts down 2 LT orders, it's just bad news. You know who it is, and you know that they get to do, that's 2 shots with a BS 14 shooter. That doesn't impact your opponent's order pool. So that's tricky. However, I do think it's well worth talking about her other profile, which you're going to use, because if you don't use it, it's crazy. I mean, so a lieutenant hacker with hacking device plus, not an ordinary hacking device. This is hacking device plus, and she gets the Trinity upgrade, which not only is it Trinity, which is +3 to your whip whenever you use it, burst 3.
Burst 3, yeah.
She just gets an extra dice, and it's a special dice, so that's 4 dice in active, 2 dice in air row, and it's whip 15.
Well, she has ECM hacker -3.
Yeah, a BTS 6 as well, which is damn respectable. So
Anything on a whip of 18.
Yeah, and I mean, so you could take
we have to carry hackers.
And if you take the multi-marksman rifle, then you've got similar range bands, I think, off the top of my head, to the Spitfire. So that still gives
sure.
her.
Yeah, it's all up to
do that.
24 inches. Yeah.
If she also has a multi-pistol as well, so that means if you try to take a pot shot at her at pretty much any range, she has access to double action ammo, and she's got access to more than 1 wound. So that means that if she's on full health, you'd be forgiven for thinking, you know what, I'm not going to go with the dodge, which would be 14. I'm going to go and take a shot and see if I can land 2 wounds and actually take this fool out. So there's a lot to dissuade her from shooting. And then the multispectral visor level 3 means there's no mimetism that will save you, quite the reverse, and not even camouflage will save you.
Yeah, you want to stay hidden from this one, because when she starts discovering and shooting, it means the discovering is automatic.
Yes. Yeah.
So nothing will stay hidden from her.
Yep. And even if she felt like she needed to move with that first short skill, she can still just shoot you thanks to the level 3.
Yeah.
But she has to take the mimetism mods, which, at BS 14, depending on which weapon she's using, she's probably quite happy to take that chance. The only thing to cover is that in the starter set, there's plenty of models that have mines. So you're going to come up against, I'm going to shoot that camo marker. Is it a mine or is it not a mine? And one of the foibles of the rule so far is that a mine is always represented by, if it's been deployed as an ordinary mine, it's always represented by an S2 camo marker. but it itself is actually SX or whatever it is, just the size of a base. So if that mine is behind cover, but the top of the camo marker is out the top, and you take a shot, I believe the consensus at the moment is that it doesn't reveal the mine, and neither do you actually make the mine roll saves because the mine was behind cover. So to the best of my knowledge, if you do that, the most that you've done is you've worked out that that camo marker is definitely a mine and not something else. However, the other thing to note actually about the Hacker Plus device is that I believe that gives her access to both Cybermask. So I think she can enter a camouflage state, or sorry, a marker state if she wants. So if you were worried she'd taken a couple of wounds and you wanted to keep her safe, you could spend an order there, and that'll put more roadblocks in the way. And she's also got access to white noise, which means that she could blind anybody with a multispectral visor or the marksmanship skill.
Yeah.
Which might become relevant later.
Yeah, she's a heavy infantry, which means she's more susceptible to hacking, although she has the -3. But then it's probably cool to be the hacker so that you can fight those hackers that try.
I mean, usually you'd need to spend. So you need to have 2 hackers in the list to have that level of protection that she has, i.e., the Trinity plus a special die. You need to have 2 hackers in the list usually to get that level of hacking protection.
She's all in one package.
Yeah, this is definitely an example of a Rambo piece, I think. So I think players are going to have a good time getting to learn how to play her.
Yeah, but if you play the 150 point list, yeah, she's more than a third.
She is, yeah, and I think we're going to find.
She's worth it. She's worth it.
I think we're going to find that when it comes to at least one of the lists I've got here, these games, I should say as well, these 150-point games, they're great for newer players because they definitely won't take as long as a 300-point game. It'll be a comfortable amount of time while you're learning the rules, and that's part and parcel of that is that you're not playing with 15 models, you're only playing with 7, and at the point that you may be at in your Infinity career, that's enough, I think.
Yeah, if you die hard, you can at least have the time to maybe set up a second game.
Okay, then. So, if you're happy that we've covered enough OSS, we could round off with a couple of lists that I've made, which are obviously going to be the bad choices and just here to spark creativity and also to make you laugh with how many horrible decisions I've made. What about you? Did you have any joy whipping together anything for?
I have not whipped something together. I'm afraid.
Not to worry. Okay, that way it's just me letting the side down, and I think we were all prepared for that. All right, okay. So these lists won't take too long. Hopefully, I can remember what I was thinking at the time. So I went with 1 Dikpala with the paramedic for 15 points. The 19-point Sharvara, so that's the one with the adhesive launcher rifle, light shotgun, and E-Murat. I went with the Shukra, 21 points, so that's chain of command. That's the cheapest one, chain of command and boarded shotgun. I went with the Hacker Naga, the hacking device Naga for 29 points, I think it is. Yeah. And I went with the Azura Lieutenant Spitfire, under the basis that there's only 5 guys in this list, and you should, but it generates something like 7 orders thanks to the Azura LT.
Yeah.
And it is a atypical shoot what you can with the Azura, and then move your specialist up with the remaining orders in camo and do hacking things. And your Sharvara is there for when you're not sure what to do, throw it at the enemy. And you have a attack bot that can run behind and try and heal your Azura, who has the nice high pH of 14.
Yeah.
In case she gets into difficulty. So, as I said, not much to it. It'll play pretty quick. But what do you think? How would you enjoy either playing that list or going up against that list?
Yeah, at one point I would say that mostly if you make a 150-point list, you come between 7 and 9 models, so 5 is on the low side. But yeah, it's an Asura to deal with, and that's a one-woman army all on its own. Which how are you gonna use it? Because it brings 3 orders from itself. So yeah, it's hide your kids, hide your wife. You can. Sure.
Yeah, that's why when I was looking over this profile, I just thought to myself that is just a disgusting profile to show up in the starter list. One of the reasons why I wanted to save Corregidor to last is because there is a way of dealing with her, but you got to work to get there, I think.
Yeah. The luck is that probably the rest of the army doesn't have that much of a reach. Yeah, you have the Shakara, but Shavara, but yeah, it will have if the whole army is there has 5 orders to spend. So yeah, it takes 2 orders to get to your back line. So once it's there, it has only 3 orders to really rampage. So and then your opponent is probably deciding to do not much with your Asura. So yeah, you know where the punch is coming from. It's coming from the Asura, because the other ones will not punch that far.
Yeah. So the next list I have has it'll spoil you with 6 models instead of 5 this time. So this time we went with 3 of the TAC bots with my favorite repeater profile. The Asura LT Hacker. So you've got a screen there and mobile fast repeaters that you could move if you wanted. And as we've discussed before, even though it's a hacker profile, multi-marksman can still get the job done at that high PS or BS, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. Then
we went with the 15-point Sharvara, i.e. the cheapest shit starter that we could find, again, for you just to throw at the enemy if you don't know what to do. And the other one I went with was the Naga Sniper this time, because I just love the idea of getting those shots from the side with those long range ones.
Yeah, because the multi-marksman can come into a situation where it probably that there are weapons that outranges your Asura. So it's nice to have a Naga who can cover those longer range bands.
Yep. So yes, hopefully that is enough of an inspiration for you to try different things with OSS. Reach out to Raymon with your complaints about how terrible an idea it was. The
How can you let them spout this on the internet?
But all that being said, time to move on, if you're ready, on to Corregidor.
Yes, my favorite convicts.
All right. So, Corregidor, trying to stick to the same format that we did before, rules that I think you're going to want to read up on if you are playing the Corregidor half. So again, we're going to touch on camouflage and hacking. I think you're also going to want to get comfortable with parachutists for this side.
Yeah, they're brilliant parachutists on there, and loads of them. Yeah.
Yes. Similar to the Naga, I think the Bearcat, the parachutist, is a model that you could spend a lot of time in your career playing with that model.
And once you go deeper into Corregidor, once you get the works of the starter, then you get the Hellcats and the other Wildcats and the other cats, and they all jump and do things. So.
Yeah. So getting a good foundation with parachutist sounds great. But I also have a hear me out rule that I think you should read up on, and that is coordinated orders. Yeah, there's a couple of kind of
advanced stuff, dear Paddy.
Well, yeah, maybe. But if you've moved beyond the starter set and you're looking at command tokens, because I think you're going to have to engage with command tokens because of the irregular troop that's in this list. Otherwise, you might be at a disadvantage. But I would say My thoughts on the starter set as a whole is that, unlike OSS, where you've got a fairly blunt instrument in terms of points values, attribute stats, and weapons, I think Corregidor kind of forces the player to be a bit more angular in the way that they've got to solve that problem. I don't see that they have the same access to just that pure horsepower of damage and dice that they can throw down on the table. So that's why I'm saying, if you were looking to level the playing field,
Yes.
the coordinated orders would be worth reading up on, because I think there's basically three ways off the top of my head that the game allows you to do more than one thing with one order to increase your action economy. Fire teams is the obvious one, where if you spend an order, you can activate multiple troopers. Peripherals aren't in the set, but that would be another way that you spend one order and you get to do more than one thing with one model. And then coordinated orders sit in they're the third way of doing it, and they sit in a very interesting place, I think, because they can help. There's at least one starter set. I forget which one it is, but it's the one that had William Wallace in it, and because he had inspiring leadership, that's a skill that as soon as a player decides to read up on that and they understand how coordinated orders work, then it absolutely changes what William Wallace is to that list. So in that respect, as much as it might be a bit advanced, that's why I'm saying it's a hear me out.
The base of some armies.
Yeah, it's a hear me out. But without further ado, let's start with, as we did before, the noble Aguaseals. So having looked at these profiles, what do you think?
Yeah, because we're adding some new.
Yeah, so I think they've got all the usual ones,
Yeah.
and then they're adding the three GATA profiles. I think are the new additions. So they're all 10 points, and the main thing that seems to
they're the most
change.
standard cheerleaders that you can find.
Yeah.
Ballistic skill 11, armor 1, whip 13, move 4/4, 10 points. It's as bog standard as you can get a cheerleader.
Yep, 100%. And I think with the GATA profiles, as well as getting a bit of a BTS boost, which is probably going to help them when they're getting hit by things like nanopulsars and things like that. I also think that with these profiles, you've got more interesting medium aero options in the form of the weapons. So the Contender, the emitter, the adhesive launcher rifle, those are all longer range rifle, clearly, or longer range bands than a submachine gun, clearly. But they're also tend towards quite the low burst range. But especially with the emitter, you get that double action effect and half BTS. And if you think about the amount of OSS profiles in the starter set that are either remotes or they're hackers or they're heavy infantry, they're actually fairly vulnerable to EM.
Yeah, isolated and immobilized, which means they stack up. So if they want to reset, they go against a -12 to do so, which probably means that they only will get out of it by a 1 or a 2 if their whip is higher than 13.
Yeah, I'm just looking. There is only one whip 12, the Sharvara. So if it gets hit by an EM,
it will stay in its lane.
Yeah, it's locked out of the game.
Unless an engineer goes up and removes it. Other than that, it will not go out of its own.
And I don't think that there is an engineer profile for OSS in the starter set. So while we're talking about command tokens and coordinated orders, another thing to read up on after a while would be speedballs, because that's the only way in the starter set that you would be able to revive that Sharvara.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you. These guys are cheerleaders. In terms of their ability to put down a perimeter, yeah, I like the emitter guy, the Contender. So that is basically T2, but it's still PS7. So, you might be able to tank that through your armor save, but if you do, you're going, or if you don't, you're going down. But for OSS, I would lean more towards the emitter or the paramines profile. Because paramines, again, anything that's going to slow down something like the Sharvara, because even if the Sharvara is alpha striking your DZ and you put down a mine, you're encouraging it to declare dodge, and if it declares dodge, that is one less skill or order that it has spent on trying to eat your guys. So that feels like that's to your advantage. And certainly when you harass these guys together, which I strongly recommend that you do, then you put together a stronger case that they shouldn't be you shouldn't be approaching them without thinking, what's it going to cost me taking those 2 dice in a row.
Yeah, sure.
But then we should move on quickly to the Territorials, which, looking at the fire team chart, I think the Territorials is the only other model in the box that could join a Corregidor fire team formed by the Alguacils. So again, quite a lot of profiles here, quite a lot of options. What's your take?
Well, for sure, I'm not a person of the Red Fury. Mostly because I believe that burst is not king. Once you hit an opponent, you want to have enough damage to make sure that that wounds will fall off. But luckily, this is an AP Red Fury, so if it has armor, it's halved, which is very nice.
Yep.
So that means that the 7 PS is less of an issue. This one is able to hit because it has the marksmanship, so it ignores cover, which is the -3 you will face the most in a firefight, because mostly people are either in or out of cover, but mostly in cover when they start shooting a bunch.
Yeah.
So to be able to take that away means you're doing most shots on 16s, if not if any other like mimetism is a thing in the shooting that you're doing. So yeah, this is a strong gunfighter, immune to crits, which is also very handy.
Yep.
Because if someone gets a crit on you, it doesn't count as 2 hits, just as the 1 hit that it normally does, or an extra hit, because you can also be hit by explosives. But yeah, it's just the 1. It is a variation of kit. The tactical awareness comes in handy so that it has an extra order by itself to do stuff. So if you want to be active with this unit, it brings 2 orders to be very active. It has some amazing stuff like the marksman rifle with the X visor, which is very handy because you probably will look at the Red Fury for the gunfighting, but if you want to do a little bit more in long range, the marksman rifle also goes to 24 inches, but the X visor makes sure that the -3s that you can get after that is just a 0. And since you're already marksmanship, that means you're still hitting out on 13s in the longer range bands by not spending any SWIC, because mostly if you want those range bands, you're getting heavy machine guns, missile launchers, sniper rifles. You're paying SWIC. This one does not. So it's been made to shoot and shoot well.
So I saw this as multi-role because you got specialist options there. I think it does skew towards active gunfighter. But I think it's also capable. There's a couple of profiles there. So between the emitter and the Panzerfaust, I'm thinking there's the option for a little bit of ARO work there, particularly given that she could be fire teamed. And as you say, the marksmanship does a lot of heavy lifting with respect to making this profile an active gunfighter. And I think we're going to find between the Territorial and the Bearcat, this is an example where Infinity shows you active gunfighters that aren't obvious from the get-go. So you might think that BS13, because another thing that's worth doing with respect to your faction is going through all of the units and army and working out what is the gold standard of BS in your faction. And I think the gold standards is typically 15, but in other factions it might be, 14. In other factions it might be 15 or something. So you might take a look at BS13 and think to yourself, wow, it's only, silver star shooting. But thanks to marksmanship and good placement on your part, that's actually BS16 against anything that doesn't have MIM. Spoilers, bad news, most of the OSS units have got MIM -3. So I don't think you're going to see the territorial shine as an active gunfighter necessarily against OSS. But I would absolutely agree with your observation that the pain about the Red Fury is that it's a little bit high on the PS compared to what you might be used to with something like a HMG or a Spitfire. But in terms of bucket lists, like I said way at the beginning, players should know that there's a hard limit of 6 dice that you're allowed to throw in any skill check. A fire-teamed Red Fury is rolling 5 dice. And as far as I can tell, in the starter set, this is the only way that you can roll 5 dice on something. So in terms of bucket list things, you absolutely should play with the Red Fury profile, put as many dice, bar 1, that you can into your hand, and then just throw them at the table. Because we don't always get to roll that many dice. So you absolutely should do that. However, while we're talking about kind of advanced player or why you might want to bear that in mind, a little bit of a late gaming concept to throw in there. But so we would agree that a Red Fury might not kill as many things as something like a TAG's hypermagnetic rail cannon.
Yes.
But it'll win face-to-face rolls because you're rolling 5 dice, and if you're doing well, that might be BS13, which is respectable for silver star shooting, or it could be BS16, depending on who you're shooting. So if for the historical war gamers out there that are just getting into the game, who've played bolt action or something, or familiar with World War II, I think it was the American fighting doctrine that had the 3 Fs, which was fix, flank, and finish. And the fixing part of that doctrine was where the fire base of the squad would use their large caliber weapons to shoot the enemy and get them to duck their heads down, and it was effectively suppressive fire. I'm trying to veer away from using the phrase suppressive fire because that's the name of a specific skill.
Yeah.
But the concept of just winning face to face is something to think about, particularly if you remember that this is a profile that could pair with an aggro-seal who could be a specialist. So you could duo them, and you could move them, and you could risk walking the specialist out in cover, or you could move the specialist with the territorial as an escort shooter. And their job isn't necessarily to kill the opponent, but it is to win face-to-face rolls so that your charge continues, if you follow what I mean. So even though you may not be getting kills with the Red Fury, you shouldn't underestimate how practical it could be used. And as you say, even the X-Visor with the marksman rifle, while we're talking about suppressive fire, that's another thing that you should read up on, because X-Visor and suppressive fire and marksmanship is actually a fairly lethal hat trick.
Sexy combo, yeah.
Yeah, because suddenly, instead of the downside of your shots between 16 and 24 having a -3, thanks to X-Visor, no, it's not. And thanks to that nice BS with marksmanship, there's a very real danger that if a territorial decides that they're going to enjoy their medium ARO roll, and you're going to spend an order to put them into suppressive fire, then that means that your opponent could potentially be facing 3 dice of BS16. Now, again, the weapon might only be PS7, but if it's winning face-to-face rolls, then it's doing its job, if you follow me.
Yes.
And the other thing I guess to note is that if you do decide to put it on ARO duty with a Panzerfaust or an emitter, its combat instinct is going to prevent a camo marker from catching it with surprise attack. So that's why I see it's a fairly multi-role profile. I think you're definitely going to use it a lot in the starter set because it does a lot of good shooting.
Yeah.
And I would hope to hear from people who've gotten so good at using it that they continue to use it once they expand their connection or their collection.
Yeah. Because it's something to note that if you have an active gunfighter that, you wanted to do the stuff in active and maybe hide it in reactive, because if I am facing something with a heavy machine gun, I know it's on its weakest when I attack it, because then it has only one burst compared to the 4 that it has when it's active.
Yes.
So you start out hunting. So mostly it's not very wise to keep your active gunfighter standing and in full view when you're done doing your orders and your opponent starts to use their orders to shoot it back. But this territorial with the Panzerfaust can double up.
The only downside of that is that all of the Panzerfaust or emitter profiles are also profiles that you may not want to lose because they're a specialist or they are your LT. So that's kind of
a bit in the pinch.
Yeah. So I mean, in turn 3, the very last turn of the game, if they're still alive and you've got nothing to fear by losing either the specialist or the LT, then stick that up in ARO and make your opponent's life difficult.
Yes.
So that probably points out how long we had to spend on that, how much kind of angular, as I said, a bit more thinking might be required for the.
It's nomads. They're not known for having a big military, but units that bring a lot of kit.
Yeah. And speaking of units with a lot of kit, if you're ready, I think we should move on to the Bearcat.
Let's go to the Bearcat.
So 5 profiles here. What do you think? What leaps out at you apart from the Bearcat?
Yeah, it's a heavy dude. Yeah, it has the Vita 1. It has the no wound decapitation, immunity shock. So that means it has 2 or 1 wound and a half. It will not go unconscious, though. It will still keep fighting. So this is a heavy drop trooper, which can have some multiple sides of roles, because it has the killer hacking device one, the paramedic one, so it can be a jump from the side, which is very handy to do. It brings you close to the target and jump in at the right moment where you want a specialist on that corner. He can be your guy, or even jump on top of it if you're feeling lucky with the dice, and roll that physics roll. But also, it has this Spitfire one, so it can also be a surprise gunfighter going from the side, especially. That's the nice of the parachutist. It's flanking is in its name.
Yes,
comes from the side. It can Spitfire. It many a time you mostly do not jump as a parachutist in on the first turn. It might be handy because the order is from the board. So if you're not using them, it doesn't count towards your order pool. So you're leaving yourself short an order. So if you jump in early and it survives, you have more orders when going into the rest of the game. But it can be handy to jump in on the second turn or second round, because your opponent has moved things out of position. AROs might be dealt with or moved, and then there's probably this little hole where you can either jump in or come in from the side and do some damage or get some objectives. So it's very sturdy. It can even jump in on a position where it can tank a hit. If it's just one dude with a combi rifle who has on burst 1 and has a shot on you, you can either decide to, I'm gonna jump on here, tank that shot. If it takes a wound, I'm going into no wound decapitation and go from there. So it gives you when airborne units become multi-wound, they give you options to come on sides of the tables that are even guarded by a unit with one shot.
Yeah, so I find myself thinking this is yet another one of those bucket list profiles. So as much as we were saying earlier that there's only limited times during your career where you get to stuff your hands full of D20s and chuck them at your opponent, it's a dice tray, not the opponent. There's only so many times that you can walk a parachutist onto the side with a Spitfire and teach your opponent that you know more about facings than they do. Because that Spitfire profile with 4 dice kind of remakes the point I made earlier with the territorial about sometimes what makes an active gunfighter isn't the attributes and isn't the gun, it's the position that you take the shot from. And BS13, I'm sure people around the community will think that's Silver Star shooting at best. That's nothing special, but the things that
I'm an
make...
Ariana player. I take my 13 is high quality in my book.
Oh no, Morat player. I love BS13. So no, I'm thinking about what other people are going to say, or they seem to be dismissive of
If you
my
come
poor
from Plano,
BS13.
yeah.
But the thing that makes a BS13 parachutist an active gunfighter is what I'm going to call blind spot shooting. Or because I keep trying to come up with quippy things, you might call it outer Zoklov shooting, which is a crap way of saying outside zone of control and outside line of fire,
Yeah.
or
There's
flanking
no
shooting.
face-to-face, just hurt.
Exactly. BS13, 4 dice, PS6 is perfectly lethal fire when the opponent isn't face-to-facing the shot.
And cover.
And Corregidor players playing this are probably going to find themselves on either turn 1 or turn 2 of the game, walking around the table as if they're playing pool or snooker or billiards, because you're looking for where can I walk the parachutist on so that it's in a blind spot, and then where can I start shooting things from beyond 8 inches away, which if you take a look at the Spitfire range bands, it's perfect for.
And don't be afraid to do it, because sometimes people think, well, if I'm openly looking from the sides, they probably think that I have a parachutist that can come in. But you're already giving the works away if people are tentative that don't have that many orders, and maybe less points on the field than they would think you have.
And I think so I'm not that familiar with the rest of the cats, as the case may be, with Corregidor or Nomads as a whole. But as I'm looking at his profile, this is again one of those profiles that I could see a player getting very comfortable with and then using as they get up to that 300-point range, because it's a veteran troop, it's heavy infantry. There are specialists. In fact, pretty much every profile is a specialist of some description, but 2 of them are hacker profiles, which to my mind means with the parachutist and its move 6, meaning it can super jump 8 inches, this is a classified king. This guy will score you classifieds every day. So as much as he's an active gunfighter, he's also a specialist. He's going to win you points. The interesting point I thought you made about when do you bring him on, and that nervousness about how you are keeping an order off the table the longer you delay bringing him on.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this guy is that he is Warforce, which means if you go into loss of lieutenant, which on the Corregidor side of things, I think you're quite likely to go into loss of lieutenant.
Yeah.
This guy, not only is he unaffected, but his order remains regular. So you may not want to leave him too late to bring him on. If he's on the table by turn 3 and you're unlucky enough to be in loss of lieutenant, he will still give you a regular order. Whereas if you're going to Loss of Lieutenant and you haven't brought him on yet, you can't bring that regular order on and let other people benefit from it. So you might be incentivized to try and get him on as early as you can, which can be difficult because generally speaking, with parachutists, one of the other advantages about leaving it too late for them to bring on is that the table state changes and there are more gaps to kind of bring them on to.
Yeah.
But in terms of his hacking profiles, I find myself more enamored with the adhesive launcher profile and the AP submachine gun. Notably, they're both killer hacking devices, which means he's got access to Cybermask. He could go into a marker state if he wanted, and he could wander happily past your opponent's mines. The only thing to bear in mind is that with the OSS, they might have that Shukra chain of command model, who's with the biometric visor is really good at getting through the impersonation state.
Yeah.
But I like
defended against hacking as well.
Yeah, I like the adhesive launcher rifle because it gives you that +3 range band outside of 8, so you could quite happily glue people down. In fact, dare I say it, as we move on with some of the other profiles, the adhesive launcher rifle might be the hear me out pick for dealing with Azuras.
Yep.
But yes, love the Bearcat. I can't wait to get absolutely rolled by one when I'm playing somebody with the starter set. But I'm ready to move on. If you're ready to move on.
Scary thing to pop up. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yep. So the next one I have on my list is Vigilantes.
Batman.
So another 5 profiles to pick from. What jumps off the page to you?
It's already. It will start in close. It is camouflaged. It is forward observer plus 8 inches. Mimetism, surprise attack. So it's one of the hidey hole units, and it comes with a whole host of weaponry. Especially since you get the mine layer one with the light flamethrower. Oh, that's.
Yeah.
So which mine is this the AP mine or is this the guy with the flamethrower that's gonna hurt me in ARO? Oh, killer hacker one, real nice. Sensor, which is also very handy, which means you're already close. So if you have to deal with other camouflages, the sensor can help to make that sensor bubble and let everything appear that's within zone of control of you.
And the burst 3 flash pulse, what is that about?
Yes. Don't look at me. I got this super camera.
Yeah. So yeah, this one screamed to me, this is a camouflage specialist, notably because every profile
well-kitted one. Yeah.
is a specialist to some description. Stats wise, fairly respectable stats, nothing that screams that it's at the top of its game, but you've got quite a Swiss Army knife here. So
with only 1 wound, so it gets into the expensive.
Yeah, and so it is interesting that forward deployment plus 8 inches. That's very serviceable, especially if you consider ITS missions that might have exclusion zones. Forward deployment plus 8 is efficient, superior deployment, if you know what I mean. Is the fact that you could take him as either a hacker or a killer hacker is interesting. So the killer hacker device, yes, you could go kill off enemy hackers, but it's not as easy to fork killer hackers. But he could cybermask himself up instead of camouflaging, or he could start the game in camouflage and then you spend an order, put him into cybermask, and then you can bypass mines.
Yeah.
Which is pretty useful. He can surprise attack out of that marker state as well. And with the multi-rifle, that's giving him access to double action or AP or shock. So that could be really useful. However, the hacking profile along with sensor and cybermines, and note if you recall what I said before about the way that hacking devices get paired with AP short-range weapons. So this guy could go hunting heavy infantry. If he can get behind them using the cover of his camouflage, then you can give heavy infantry a fork that they don't want. Sensor means that he can pop. He can reveal mines. He could pop what you suspect to be hidden deployment things out of their hidden deployment state in case they're camping out objectives. And his cyber mines will be particularly useful against hackers, if I recall it is. I think it stuns everything, but it also puts hackers into isolate, which is useful. I wouldn't be surprised if people favored the mine layer profile. Because it's always good. Because AP mines, similar to the logic of the AP Red Fury, is that what's worse than a shock mine, an AP mine, just because it's harder to survive against. But then looking at his 29-point profile, that armed combi rifle turret, that could be pretty annoying if he placed that somewhere that you didn't want. And then that forward observer profile, that to me feels like that's the most could go to ARO if you needed it profile, thanks to the flash pulse of the E-mirror.
Yeah, for certain. Yeah, it's I think it as an AR duty, I would probably think it's already going to the expensive side as a Vita 1 unit. But yeah, this is very much a very good active specialist and can throw up an annoyance. The mines can replace the armored turret, so he can hide him well. But once people want to go after it, there's the light flamethrower. So it's a very specialized kit that can do a lot if used well.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And it's a very nice model too.
And then I think it's time to talk about the Bandit. Again, another 5 profiles to go over.
Yeah, this is this can start some shit.
Absolutely. The clue is in the name, but
yeah, I'm a bandit. I'm here to start shit.
Yeah, what do you like about what you see?
Man, it's always been the bandit has been here for a while, but this is really a glow up from earlier designs. Yeah, it is an irregular. That's always been a bit either to make him cheaper, but also a bit of a weakness. Because if you get a camouflage and you want to keep it hidden and you don't want to use it, then the irregular order goes a bit to waste. So that's always been a bit of a downside unless you're going into action with it, and it can use its kit. So yeah, there's fun to be had with the mine layer to have several camouflages markers hanging about. It can work it can do a bit of specialist work, which is very handy with the hacker and the killer hacking device and the forward observer. It is very short range, but very well short range because it has the light shotgun, the boarding pistol, so it has the template. Shotguns lost their template in the last edition, but the boarding pistol brings it back again.
Oh yeah, that's right. I meant to mention that about the Bearcat. The Bearcat's boarding pistol has an extra burst, so that means he's extra good at corner work, popping around the corner and throwing down 2 templates. But yes, you're right. This guy can always throw down a template, which works both for active turn gunfighting, but also as a bit of an ARO. If you go near this guy, he can always throw
longer
down
range. It has the adhesive launcher rifle, which is extra with the SD dice, so has more of a chance to be used also in active because you have some more dice to throw around.
Yeah. So I was really quite inspired by this guy. I see a lot that I like. I would definitely categorize him as a shit starting Alpha Striker. I'm going to put down Alpha Striker because that infiltration reroll strongly incentivizes you to make sure that you're deploying right outside your opponent's deployment zone.
This is giving a chef's kiss to the Spanish meta.
Yeah,
Where
why?
Because everyone I know plays it safe with infiltration. Like you can try and roll with a -3 on your physic to throw it into the half of your opponent, but yeah, that's a risky business. This one has a reroll and has a short range weaponry that can really start some shit if you bring it in close.
I mean,
This is the one where you're gonna let's see if the Spanish meta works in other places when we're using a bandit.
with his infiltration reroll and mine layer, that gives you the option of, so if you once you get into the game, you'll realize that you always hold one model back, at least one model back, and then you place them down last. This guy with the mine layer profile, imagine the look on your opponent's face when like, okay, I'm going to put my last model down. I'm going to make an infiltration roll, and you'll just see them roll their eyes. As you make the infiltration roll, you place him safely in camouflage somewhere away, and then you put down either a shock mine or a repeater right from turn one. Now, I don't know the repeater is going to get you the same mileage against OSS that it will against other forces.
Have you
But the
heard
shock
about our
mine,
Lord and Savior guided missiles? Like,
yeah, absolutely, yes. So again, I could see players that get good with their collection with the bandit. They could keep bandit in as they move up. But he's got so much stuff that he can do. I think he's the best close combat guy in the box with CC 22 and martial arts level 2.
yeah,
But that BS attack +1 special die, that does a number of quite interesting things. I think that automatically makes him a bit of an active gunfighter in some circumstances, because it means his boarding pistol, if he decides to use it in hit mode instead of template mode, that's 3 dice. That's short range. But more to the point, his light shotgun profiles, those are always there. Those are 3 dice in active, 2 dice in reactive. It means his adhesive launcher rifle is rolling 3 dice. And his submachine gun, if the mine layer profile, that's 4 dice in active, 2 dice in reactive, or that is 4 dice if you stick him into suppressive.
yeah,
Which is great fun. He gets surprise attack along with camouflage baked in, and he has a killer hacking profile, which means that if you wanted to, you could put him into cyber mask, wander past mines, and then surprise attack some fool. And the bang bomb only works, I think, if you're within zone of control or you can see your opponent. And this guy wants to get in close. So you're probably going to get good mileage out of bang bomb.
if your shooting options are bad, then bang bomb.
And I think this guy, oh yes, that's the other thing as well. He's irregular. So going back to the use of command tokens, his order can habitually only be spent on him. As the Corregidor player, you're going to want to know that you start the game with 4 command tokens, and you can spend a command token in the middle of your active turn to convert a regular order to a regular order for use for other people. So that's a powerful little piece of stuff to bear in mind while you're reading up about the rules. And that way, even though you may want to get him straight into your opponent's DZ in turn 1, if it actually turns out that's a bad idea, you can recoup his art or his order back. But I also think this guy might be one of the better models to try and deal with your mate's Azura. And I have a hear me out that I kind of need to walk you through here. So you remember what I was saying all this time about trying to take on
through hacking, because
sorry?
it's not going to do it through hacking, because
Well, that's what I'm saying. I have a hear me out. Let me walk you through it, right? Remember what I was saying about how it's really difficult to give a hacker a fork because they've got that 360 degrees worth of zone of control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's the bucket list moment again, of where we combine a number of the things that we've been talking about before to take down an Azura.
Yeah.
So you start off just outside the deployment zone in a camouflage state.
Yes.
Because he's got stealth, it means so long as he stays outside of people's line of sight, he can actually wander through hacking networks and not trigger arrows. So even if your opponent has made the excellent recommendation that they did to use the repeaters in the Dikpalas, so long as he doesn't do anything that breaks stealth, he could use those orders to wander through the repeater network, staying out of line of sight, and try and end up behind the Azura and outside 8 inches. The next thing that he does is that he shoots the Azura with his 3 dice on the adhesive launcher rifle. And if you're lucky enough and you land a hit, that means that the Azura is immobilized A, which means that the only skill she can declare is dodge.
Yeah.
And that's how you attempt to Trinity
There you go, Trinity. Yeah.
Where you make it so that they can't actually hack you back. So you might spend one order to move forward, and then you might try a Trinity. But she's got a really good BTS, so it might not land. She also has Hacker -3 that I'm fairly sure doesn't switch off just because you're mobilized. So you might still fail, especially as you're whip 12. But if you've done that, you're now within 8 inches, and you're now hopefully close enough that your next short skill is to wander up and get her into CC. And even if you end your turn in CC with her, then that effectively takes Azura off the board until the bandit is dealt with. So it's very table-y. There's no way that that's a reliable method, but hopefully that kind of opens out some of the things that we've been talking about.
If 26 points gets a 60+ point unit out of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And
even if you don't,
even if you don't kill her, even if you've made it so that she can't spend orders usefully, then that's working to your benefit.
Especially that 5-unit list of yours that depends on the
absolutely,
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so I've got 2 lists that we can go through. But before I do that, I said I would talk about coordinated orders, and one of the reasons why I think it's worth the Corregidor player reading up on coordinated orders. So in brief, as we said before, the coordinated orders mechanic is a way for you to spend a regular order and a command token, so you can only do it 4 times, and you can activate more than 1 trooper. The limit is 4, and there's caveats as to what you can do, etc., but it's well worth reading up. But one of the things you can do as a coordinated order is you could have 4 units use the skill place deployable. There's a fair amount of profiles in this list that have mines or things that you place with place deployable. So like armed turrets, for example, or repeaters. Even the humble Aguasil has a profile that has either a deployable repeater or paramines.
Oh yeah. That's
so
now added,
if you're starting at turn 1 and your opponent is, going second, and they've got this handsome repeater network that they didn't have to spend any orders to do, and they're all smug about it, here's what you do. You have your Haris with not your Haris. You have your core fire team with a territorial with TAC awareness, Red Fury, and a collection of Alguacils. You spend the TAC awareness order in the fire team, which makes the territorial the fire team leader, and she takes a shot at something. But the first short skill that she declares is move. You move 2 Aguacils out of coherency of the territorial.
Yeah.
Right? That makes them temporarily leave the fire team. You haven't spent a regular order, you spent a tactical awareness order that you had to spend anyway. But that means because they've temporarily left the fire team, they can participate in a coordinated order. So the next order that you spend is a regular order and 1 command token. You include 2 Aguacils because it definitely can't be 3, because that would leave the territorial on our own and break the fire.
You want the Link team to be there still.
Exactly, yeah. So 2 Agri Seals, a Vigilante, and a Bandit. And they all take part in the same order, and they all suddenly place things on the table that your opponent would really rather prefer weren't on the table. And then suddenly that changes your game state to where you've got more medium and soft AROs on the table. Again, that's very table-y, but hopefully you can see that even though you've only got 7 models and you don't have as handsome a collection as some of your peers might do in your local gaming club, there's a fair amount of interesting stuff you can do with the models that are in this list.
Because by the end of it, if you moved your Agri Seals back into zone of control of your Link leader, then by the end of your round at the stage phase, they're all back in the Link team again.
Absolutely, and of course, place deployable is the short skill that you have to declare second. The first short skill that you declare of your coordinated order is move, where your Agri Seals move back into coherency.
Yeah.
Next step, profit, hopefully. All right, so here are 2 of my terrible lists that hopefully spark some inspiration better
the worst,
the regular players. So we start off with 3 combi rifle Agri Seals, and one of them is the LT. So we're going to play the old school, who's my LT? You got to go find him. So that forms your Haris. In there, we're going to put the territorial tack-aware with the marksman rifle. So she can take pot shots at stuff. And we went with the marksman rifle because it's light on SWC, because the SWC hog of the list is the Spitfire Bearcat.
Yeah.
Kick that bucket and make sure you try and wipe as many people off the rear line as you can. Don't be tempted to go with the combat jump. That's a risk. See if you can get away with parachutist. There's a time and place for combat jump, but parachutist you don't have to roll, so you can always walk on.
Move from the side. It's very, if you don't make that roll, that you have to move from your deployment zone again. It's.
Yep. And then we have the Vigilante mine layer and the Bandit mine layer to give you a little bit of something for your opponent to worry about on turn 1.
Yes.
And then the other list that I had is that this time we'll take 3 forward observer Agri Seals, and we'll use their whip as their best stat along with the flash pulse. That will give you a little bit of extra long range perimeter if you wanted. This time we'll take the territorial with the LT Red Fury. So she's going to take that 1.5 SWIC, and she'll be shooting things and hopefully putting things down. Or you have an Agri Seal who is a specialist that you could use the territorial to walk up as cover and maybe go and get closer to an objective. But maybe you don't need to worry about that because you have a Bearcat with a killer hacking device that's ready to walk on, go into a marker state, and then go and press some buttons.
Yeah.
And in terms of dealing with your opponent's heavy infantry, you have a Vigilante hacker to go and harass them in the way that we discussed before. And then that follows up with the Bandit, who also has the killer hacking device for when you decide that you would like to try and kill a hacker in the first turn.
Yeah.
So there, I'm spent. I'm out of good ideas. I'm even out. Well, I'm not out of terrible ideas, I'm afraid to say. But hopefully that's going to inspire people to try some shit out.
Yeah, that's
what do you think in general?
The first is very, very general. I think it's a very good list for a starter that it has all the tastes that you need from a regular list, and just go and have fun with it.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, buy this box.
Buy this box.
Play it with a friend.
Show me how I didn't see the things, and take me to school.
Play the first missions, then make this list and start off light.
Yeah. Get through the missions in the box. That'll be a great intro to like the rules and whatnot, and then hopefully with some of the concepts and some of the language that we tried to establish, you can try to experiment with your own stuff.
Yeah, and it's good stuff to begin with. Sometimes you have starters from other companies that you're like, this stuff ain't worth a damn. But yeah, these are good because Alco Seals and cheerleaders you will always use. These gunfighters, the Asura is just king in a ALEF. So you start off well with this starter box in both cases.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And definitely the Corregidor player is going to learn that you're going to have to think of other ways than just getting into a straight gunfight in order to deal with some pieces.
I have a line Kazakhs from my starter set that are now 16 years in my possession, and I played them last Friday. So that says something about this building in Infinity. Like the starter box is actually it's a base. It's from where you can build up very easily.
Yeah, I'm going to the UKGE tournament shortly, and then once on the other side of that, I'm definitely going to play with different profiles and different models.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to exploring some of the other stuff.
Yeah. Do we have anything to add to this?
I don't think so. God
No.
knows. I've probably waffled enough, and I've probably made enough experienced players so angry that they're going to make their own length episodes.
Yeah.
Correct the
We have
record.
shared our wisdom. Go at it. Experiment. Play these games. Don't feel that you're doing it wrong by starting off light. This game has so much to offer. So print out your rules and just go from where you start with and go from there.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
All right. Well,
thanks for joining me, Raymon. Thank you for listening to all of
lovely to be a guest on my show.
that. How quaint.
Then you can sound off. That's your job now.
All right, keep throwing dice, people. Keep making lists. I'll see you on the table.